Yes, client communication. This is what I've built my entire career on, is communicating and creating relationships essentially through the communication with our clients. It gets you referrals, it builds those long-term relationships. This is what it's all about. And over the years, it has become second nature, and it's just been part of my subconscious conversation that I'm having. And I just have it, right? And a lot of these things come natural. And that's just through years and years and years of talking to people and just learning the hard way. I've failed at this so many times, and that is part of growing, right? I've had bad conversations. I've ruined relationships because of just not communicating, right? And that is the truth in every relationship in our lives, is making sure we're over communicating and we're communicating the right way and we're communicating effectively. So this is the most important section. That's why I'm so excited to jump into this. Our phase 7 client communication. You can read through the introduction. I'm going to briefly just kind of talk through it. Obviously there's communication, but it's not even just about how we communicate, but it's how we report to our clients, right? So it's when we're doing a project, it's how we make sure that they know where that project's going and it all aligns with their goals. And there's a beginning conversation, there's a middle conversation, and an end conversation. It can be as simple as messages, it can be phone calls, all those things. Because the whole point is you never want to leave your client wondering. They need to always be in the loop. If they have to wonder, if they have to reach out to you, you're doing it wrong. You should be one step ahead of them. And there's nothing that they will appreciate more than you being one step ahead. Because a lot of times they'll forget, and then all of a sudden a couple of days will go by and they go, oh, well, I wonder where that project is. I haven't heard anything. And they'll reach out and you have to update them. That is so bad. We want to avoid that at all costs. And so through this process, we're going to basically break down the principles of just communication. A lot of it's going to be super repetitive. And we're going to talk about the different platforms that we use. We've got the Asana, Slack, email, even text messages, all those things. And we've got other classrooms that go into those platforms to really help you understand what those are and how they work. And this isn't just about systems. It's about people. It's about creating relations, being able to communicate with people in a way that makes them feel heard, makes them feel special. And in the end, we just want to be their friend. We want to help them, right? We all want the same goal. We want to have the project we're working on succeed. And so being able to communicate people professionally and consistently at the highest level is the way to go. So by the end of this course, you'll have a complete understanding of how to keep clients happy, how to build trust and secure those long-term retainers. And you'll have clients that trust you, and that's how you'll stand out from the competition. There's a lot of great videographers nowadays and filmmakers. People want to work with people they like. And the Tyson Media way is communication. And we want to make sure that you're doing the same thing so that we can retain those long-term relationships with our clients. That's the introduction. We're now going to jump into the first module of our 10-module Tyson Media client communication. And unlike the other classrooms, there's things to show you. There's examples. There's things on websites. This is going to be more of me going, and that's why this is so detailedly written out, is because this is the foundation of just communicating. There's not a lot to show with that. It does come with the experiences you have with each client. And so as you get into these experiences, you'll start to implement these different things and you'll start to see how the relationships grow. So a lot of it's going to be me running through things, but in that, bringing up experiences and maybe some examples of relationships or client relationships that I've had in the past. So the first module is the foundation of client communication. So we're going to go through lesson 1, which is why communication is the cornerstone of Tyson Media. I've kind of already talked about this in the introduction, but basically it is to build trust. It gives the client consistency. And without those things, there is no trust. And that is the furthest thing we want from a relationship. We want to make sure we build trust. We're also avoiding problems down the road. And in film, you're going to have problems. But if we can get ahead of those problems and communicate effectively so that we just avoid problems, then the problems that arise later are smaller, they're easier to fix. We avoid the bigger problems by communicating. Number 2, the role of communication in securing long-term retainers. That is the end goal, right? We want long-term relationships. We want that sustainable income. So long-term retainers provide stability, as you know, for your business and for your clients, because there's so much there's so much value that comes with a filmmaker that can be consistent for a client. So if you can show that you can be that person, there's a lot of stability for not just you, but for your client as well. So here's how Tyson Media uses communication to transition clients from one-off projects to retainers. So these are those beginning relationships. Transparency from day one. It's always been huge for me to be ahead of all questions, all concerns, and be very responsive. So making sure we're talking about timelines, deliverables, and our processes, and setting those expectations early so that nothing falls through the cracks and avoids any surprises along the way. Proactive updates. Clients, like I said before, clients should never have to ask you what's happening with my project or where are we at on this task. We have systems in place that provide regular updates so that is never the case, and they're just sitting back watching things happen and you're updating them regularly. And then also feedback loops. We've talked about our feedback processes, there's a reason for that. It's communication. It's so that people feel heard. If they feel like they're collaborating, they're part of the process, and their opinion is valued. So implementing feedback loops through each project. Number 3, creating predictability. It's so important to have predictability in our lives, because when there's not predictability, that comes concern. When you don't know the outcome, you don't know what's coming, that brings fear, that brings turmoil. We want to avoid that. So giving them predictability by establishing a clear process. So we're going to outline the project lifecycle, onboarding from onboarding to delivery, so that they're always understanding what comes next. Consistent cadence, maintain regular communication schedules. So weekly check-ins, monthly reports, quarterly reviews. Each client will be different, and at least weekly, and no longer, I would say, bi-weekly updates. Like we'll even give updates on invoices and where they're at in their budget for this month, just so that there's no surprises. That's where predictability comes in. Reliable systems, which I will pound this nail over and over and over, using tools like Asana to make sure that each project's moving smooth and everything's accounted for. Lesson 4, challenges in client communication and the Tyson Media solution. So a lot of challenges that we're going to face are unclear expectations, overwhelm, inconsistent updates, reactive communication. So we want to avoid these hurdles because they will undermine the relationships with the clients. Unclear expectations, clients aren't sure what's happening or when they'll see results, right? That's when they have to reach out to you and get those. Overwhelm, too much information. So that's actually, you can easily overwhelm clients with too much information by like just blah, 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 versus giving them just the high level details that are important to them. And that's part of like keeping them out of our Asana process, because they don't need to see all the feedback that we're going on our side. Just give them what they need. If there's inconsistent updates, so you're not even consistent, you might be doing it a lot early and then you're falling behind, it can show that they're not important. And if they don't feel important, then that's not going to nurture a long-term relationship, and they'll go find somebody else. And then reactive communication's so bad, and it's probably what I did the most back in the day, and that's when a problem arises, that's me. I'm reacting to that problem and I'm solving it then, versus trying to stay ahead of these things. And I've lost relationships with clients because of this. And a lot of it comes down to budget and how much things cost. And you go ahead and do something and then you invoice them and they're just like, what is this? Like, I didn't expect this. And you're like, well, this is the problem. So I'm reacting to their problem, and it just doesn't go well. And so that's a bad thing to do. So at Tyson Media, we're always trying to provide clarity, proactivity, consistency, and personalization. So basically taking those 4 things and we solve those problems. And these are things that you can talk about when you're onboarding a client, making sure that they understand that we're providing clarity, we're being proactive and consistent, and personalization. So at the end of this, there's an exercise for you to do, which is just reflecting and setting goals for improvement if you are interested in doing this. So you're just going to ask yourself these questions. What is your typical communication style with clients? If you're early, you're going to reflect on some of the things that you're talking about. And I always recommend recording your calls so that you can go back and critique yourself. But these are all in the PDF, so you can go check them out and actually write these things out. And then I want you to set 2 to 3 goals for your next project. So make sure if you have a client, you're going to let them know you're going to send them weekly updates, or maybe you have a weekly call already and that's where you're going to give the updates. Or you're going to be using your project management tools to give them updates as well. So This is the first module. A lot of the other modules after this are going to be pretty repetitive, and you're going to learn a lot of the same things over and over in different ways. But we're just going to continue breaking it down so that when you're done with this, communication is just like boom, drilled into your brain, so that you're not forgetting, because you can get busy as a creator, right? You can get busy creating, you can get busy editing, and forget about managing your clients, and then your business suffers because of it. So let's move on to module number 2.